Hello and welcome to this episode of the Mixtape podcast. This is where we take a deep dive into the inspirations and influences of my guest as I ask them to select 6 tracks for their imaginary mixtape. Track 1 is an attention grabber. Track 2 is a song they sing in the car or the shower. Track 3 is a cover version. For track 4, I'll ask them to pick a song they wish they could have played to their 18-year-old selves. Track 5 is a song they would use to woo someone. Track 6 is a track that my guest feels doesn't get the attention or recognition that it deserves. Track 6 is for Patreons only, so if you'd like to support the creation of this podcast, it's patreon.com/mixtape podcast, or you can check out the link in the description below. You can join for free or subscribe for as little as $2 a month. There's lots of other Patreon-only content on there, including the opportunity to ask guests a question and to have a personalised mixtape playlist curated by yours truly. There's lots of other ways you can support me, a like or a follow on social media. Again, there's links in the description for that. Or if you are listening on Spotify, you can smash the follow icon or you can rate the podcast. All of these little things go a long way towards growing the platform, and I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy this episode. How shiny is the top of my head? Christ. That's bad.
Looks clean, man. No, it looks clean. I like the background behind you. That's really cool.
Hello and welcome to the Mixtape for KCR 102.5 FM and the mixtapepodcast.com. Joining me today, it's Chris Tapp from the Cold Stairs. How are you, Chris?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for making the time and coming on, mate. I really, really appreciate it. And I've been listening to and enjoying very much your last couple of singles, Coming Home and Blow, Wind, Blow. They're off your new album. Is that right? The Southern?
Yes, September 6th.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that album and your inspirations behind the writing and recording for that album.
Yeah, man. You know, the last couple of years we've been touring around the world, and when we started this band, we were leaning towards the blues rock thing just because what was natural to us, but we never intentionally started out as a Southern band. But I noticed that last couple of years in interviews, people kept on noting us as, you know, Southern or Southern blues rock, or and I don't know if it's my accent or our accent or where we're from or whatever, but you know, we kept getting a little bit of that. So I thought, well, what we feel like is Southern is probably much different than what a lot of these bands that are out right now that call themselves Southern rock. So we wanted to do a record that leaned into kind of our Southern influences and what it meant for us to kind of be Southern. So yeah, we went in the studio last October and did some work then, and then did some work in December and knocked it out. We did it in Memphis, Tennessee, and yeah, it was pretty easy project, but it was fun writing for it because I kind of knew, you know, we wanted to do a tip of the hat to our influences that were Southern. So
yeah. And did you make a trip back to where you originally came from? Is that what inspired the title?
well, we did, but you know, I'm only about an hour away. Where we live now is about an hour away from where we grew up. Brian and I grew up in Kentucky, and we're just across the border in Indiana, but it's vastly different. You know, I don't know how it is in Australia, but we crossed the river here from Indiana, Kentucky. The people are different. The looks different. You know, it's just a different vibe and a different way of living. But we came back from Europe, and I went down to visit somebody down in Kentucky and just started thinking about how different it was down there. But, you know, nobody thinks of Indiana as Southern, but really Kentucky in a lot of ways stereotypically is maybe more Southern than even some of the more Southern states these days, you know, because of just the way that a lot of people from California and out West have moved to Southern states. Of Florida, you know, is obviously the most Southern, but it's not a traditionally Southern state the way that Kentucky is.
Sure. And with the album release, will we be seeing any physical formats? I'm a big vinyl collector and always like to ask people when they come on about their new releases, are you going to be putting the new album out on vinyl? And if so, where can people grab a copy of that from?
Yeah, it's a really cool packaging on this one. Our record label Mascot does a really good job on each one of these. So this is our third record with them. and yes, it'll be around you'll be able to get it around the world. It'll be at all the record stores,
Yeah.
same as our other ones so far. So
And it's thecoldstairs.com is the website where people can catch up and catch up with everything you're doing. Just before we get on to tour dates and stuff, Chris, I wanted to ask you because I was looking at your website, and this is purely a question for me. Never mind the listeners.
yeah,
Are you familiar with a band called Golden Smog?
I know the name. That's it. Yeah.
Because on your website, one of the background images is the album cover from the album Weird Tales by Golden Smog. It's the girl with the black mask and the sort of the hands sort of going like that. Is
Yeah.
that I only know that as the cover for Weird Tales by Golden Smog, but is that a different image? Does it mean something different in America? Because I saw it on the background of your website and it piqued my interest straight away. I was like, oh, I was googling the Cold Stairs Golden Smog because Golden Smog's kind of like a collective sort of band and members of the Jayhawks and Soul Asylum and the country sort of rock sort of vibe. So I didn't know whether you were involved with them or yeah, what the connection was, or whether it was just a coincidence and it's an image that gets used like a fair bit. What can you tell us about that, or
Yeah.
tell me about that?
You know, now I do know who you're talking about. I did know that band because I think I
Mm.
had that record in the 90s. No, that's actually from a French poster from the 1920s, and I did not know that they
Right.
had
Okay.
used that image as well. But yeah, it's just when we built the website, we were looking at things that kind of sparked visually interest or what we thought was reflective of the band and grabbed
Yeah.
those things. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's actually from it's an old French poster, I think, for either perfume or for a concert or something.
Right. Okay. Right. I'm going to do a bit of research and I'm going to have a bit of a deep dive on it now because yeah, I obviously only know it as their album cover and I thought it was like maybe
Yeah.
some artwork that they commissioned for their album, but obviously they've borrowed it from the same place that you did. Yeah. Okay.
We
Right.
yeah, we have similar taste. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that mystery solved. So Chris, I noticed you're on tour as well. You're hitting Europe in August and September. I'm absolutely devo because I'm over here in Perth in Western Australia, and I'm 2 weeks after you leave London. I'll be there, so I'm
Uh,
devo that I'm going to miss you in London, New Cross, and Sittingbourne. But any plans to get across to Australia at all?
we need to get over there and figure that out. It's just been so tough. A few years ago, we kind of done the logistics on it. At the time, it was just around, right after COVID, and the venues there just didn't have the money.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
fees
yeah,
were so low. It didn't make sense for us to travel that far. But Bryce, our bass player, has family in Sydney, and we
yeah,
have a friend of ours, Shannon Tank Fuller, that runs fan club for us down there, and our numbers in Australia have been going up and
yeah,
up and up the last few
mm,
years, and
yeah, yeah,
we it was such I think about the bands that influenced us, when as a kid, AC/DC was, the band that got us all going. But in the
yeah,
90s, when we were in grade school and stuff, Baby Animals, and there's a lot of bands
yeah,
from
yeah,
Australia that were just super influential on the band.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we do need to figure out the way to get down there and get the touring. And so hopefully in the next year or two we'll
Mm,
be down that way.
sure. Are you familiar with the Teskey Brothers?
Yes, of course.
Amazing band from
Amazing.
Melbourne. That would be a good
Yeah,
support
they
site.
are.
Hit them up, get over and support the Teskey Brothers. That'll be a bill to die for. That would be awesome. I would love to see that.
Yeah,
Absolutely love that.
amazing.
Yeah, I've seen them live a couple of times, and yeah, they're incredible. Josh Teskey, his vocals just yeah, it's like if for anyone listening who's not familiar, imagine Sam Cooke and Otis Redding had a baby and he looked like a surfer dude from Melbourne. That's what he looks and sounds like. He's incredible. Yeah, shout
When
out
I
to Teskey
first heard
Brothers.
them, I had to double check and take a look at who was singing because I,
Same,
I was I was
same.
blown
Yeah,
away. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, unreal. Yeah, incredible
But
band. Yeah,
Australia's you guys are known for great singers. There's a ton of great singers.
he's one of those guys. They do a lot of covers. I've seen a lot of do a lot of covers, and he's one of those singers that every cover version that he does, it's better than the original. Like he brings something like new to it. We'll get to covers a little bit later on, which is a beautiful segue into your mixtape choices, Chris. Thanks so much for sending them through. As you know, my show is called the Mixtape, and when people come on, I like to get them to make up an imaginary mixtape and pick some tracks for it, and we'll have a brief chat about each one. So track one is, whenever I sort of kick off the radio show, or I'll make up a playlist or a mixtape or anything like that, I like to go in and really grab attention in fine style with track one. So what did you pick for that, Chris? I believe it was Free.
Yeah, yeah, Fire and Water. Yeah, this one kind of sums it up for me. It kind of crosses, checks all the boxes. Vocally, always been one of
Mhm.
my heroes, and then on guitar, Paul Kossoff as well.
Mhm.
So those two, I kind of always was trying to get somewhere in between, get a little bit close to each one of those in my band. So
Yeah.
I love this song and just the power of it. So
Yeah, no, it's an amazing track, and I was lucky enough. My very first gig ever as a 19-year-old slip of a lad was Paul Rodgers had a Muddy Waters tribute album out in the sort of
yeah,
early to mid 90s, and I saw him on that tour, and that was my very first gig. Shout out Tommy for taking me to that gig, and it was Brian May came on. Yeah, it was that album that
yeah,
anyone who's not familiar, it's a guest album where Paul Rodgers is covering Muddy Waters tracks, and he's got a who's who of guitarists on that record. It's an amazing album. I think it's called Muddy Water Blues. I think it's what it's called. Yes, yeah, and that was my very first ever gig. And I think you had Simon Kirk on drums as well on that tour.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I tell you who else played drums on that tour. Jason Bonham came on and played drums on that show as well. Yeah, that was as a first gig. That was like, yeah,
It's about
that's
as
up
good
there.
as it gets. Yeah,
Yeah, I know, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it was so good. It was so. I remember thinking, I'm in the same room as Brian May. This is amazing. Like, yeah, just as
yeah.
I was a young lad, as my first ever gig. Yeah, but Free, obviously, and a Bad Company for me. They're two of the sort of mainstays of my sort of blues rock foundation that I had was as a young man. And yeah, Fire and Water. Absolutely classic track, and I was having a good old sing in the shower just before we came on, Chris, and Shooting Star and Can't Get Enough, and yeah, I was cranking all them out. Yeah, loving a bit of that. Yeah, it's just they're all mainstays of my shower
Me too.
playlist. Yeah, that's another beautiful segue. I didn't even mean it that time, but yeah, great segue into track two, Chris, and that is a song that you sing when you're on your own in the car or the shower. Foreigner, waiting
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
girl like you.
It's funny as I was driving a truck for my dad whenever I was younger. Whenever I first started trying to sing, I was in a band whenever I was young, but didn't sing. And then we just got tired of dealing with the singer that we had. He was an absolute pain in the ass. And I was like, man, I've got to learn how to sing. So I can just remember as a kid, being 16 and hearing that song on the air, and I could always do the verses, and I thought, well, man, I'm getting where I can sing pretty well. And then
Yeah,
he'd hit that chorus and
that
I
chorus
was I
goes
was
up there,
out,
doesn't it?
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm done. So, even today when I hear that song on the radio, I think Lou was very underrated as a vocalist. I think he's up there with any of those guys, especially that period of his life was just as a vocalist was absolutely amazing. Those songs are great and big influence on us too. It's not always the coolest thing. It's not as Foreigner's not as cool to say that you're into as Led
Mm,
Zeppelin or Free, but you're a product of what you hear, and that stuff was
mhm.
on the radio when we were kids, and
Yeah.
it's a guiltless love for me because I think they were extremely talented, and that song is just and it sounds just freaking awesome. It's
Yeah,
just
no, it does. Yeah, the production on it's great, isn't it? It's a great record. That,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
As a great man said to me once, Chris, one of the nicest things anyone ever said to me was, "You don't care what's cool, you like what you like, and that makes you cool." Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
There
Like
you
I
go.
don't, I don't use the phrase guilty pleasure ever. I like it. I like it. I like
Yeah,
Taylor Swift. I like, there's all sorts of stuff that I like, and I can't stand the phrase guilty pleasure because I never feel guilty about, stuff like that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
a bit dad rock and that, but like you say, what a tune, lyrically, vocally, like yeah, production wise, yeah, it's right up there. Yeah, fantastic. You could have had that. That would have been a good track five choice song to woo someone as well. But yeah, we'll get to that one in a little while.
Yeah, and at the time you couldn't go anywhere without hearing it.
Yeah, yeah,
Television,
yeah.
airport,
All over the
shopping. It
radio.
was it
Yeah.
was everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about television, that's a quick segue. That's another nice one. Smooth today. This is going really well. Animal Kingdom, Chris. Sleeping with
Yeah.
Lions. Obviously, for anyone unfamiliar, your track "Sleeping with Lions" was used in the TV show Animal Kingdom. What does that mean to you as a band and for your exposure and reach as a band?
We've been really blessed with a bunch of those. You know, that was really the first one that we had, and then it followed with we've had the Mayans and Sex
Mm,
Education. We've had a bunch now, and but that was really the first one, man. And it was like, you know, it's like hearing your song on the radio the first time. It's just
mm,
the ability to get out and reach that many people, you know, and it's mind numbing to think that something that you wrote, you know, in the car and recorded and then you put out is being heard on a television show and being heard by that many people. And
yeah,
you know, the wild thing is with these TV shows is you never know, you know, you get a call and they say they want to license the song for it and you
mm,
work out the money and all and that's great. But then you never know, is it going to be in a scene where you know they're robbing a bank or somebody's getting beaten to death or you know you never know,
yeah,
so you kind of have to cross your fingers on a show like that. You never know, so I think it was played actually
yeah,
when a guy was rummaging through a room looking for drugs, and you know
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
wild. It's great for us because lyrically, you know, that song is really about it's a heavy song, but it's really about a positive
mm,
message of just, you know,
mm,
overcoming and stuff. So a lot of times with stuff like that, when it's in a scene that maybe is not super positive, if it gets new fans in and they listen to the lyrics and it, you know, does
mm.
something for them that way, it's great for us.
Yeah. The Animal, I'm not sure if you're aware, Animal Kingdom's actually based on an Australian movie,
Yeah.
the TV series for anyone who's unfamiliar. Yeah, fantastic series, one of my favourites of recent years. I was having a conversation with there's a UK singer-songwriter I had on the show recently called Finn Greenall, his name is, and he's had a lot of stuff similar to you. He's sort of he's an independent artist almost. He's got a record deal, but he's not on one of the majors or anything like that. But he's had tracks on Walking Dead, Better Call Saul, and stuff like that. And he said it enables him to tour America with no radio play whatsoever. He can come and tour
Yeah.
America, and it gives him that kind of reach. You know, with Netflix and streaming services now. Yeah, but he was saying that he's a massive, massive fan of Better Call Saul, and they sent him the script with how his track was going to be used, and he was like. No, because he's obviously a few episodes ahead of where he was actually like, and he was like, you got to redact it. I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to read because it'll be a
Yeah.
spoiler for the series. He didn't want to know like what was going on in the show. Yeah, but he's very atmospheric and moody, and it really fitted the Walking Dead particularly. It suited that sort of
Yeah.
that show like massively. Yeah, sorry, a little bit of a diversion there from the mixtape, but you reminded me of it when you said TV shows, and I meant to have a chat with you about that as well. Free,
I
Chris.
loved
Sorry,
Better
go on.
Call Saul too. That's such an amazing show. And I think
I know, yeah, yeah, it's a
little
great show that.
little Barry had that intro track, you know, which was just so great. We had a couple songs that almost made that show, and
Yeah,
so
right,
we
okay,
were
yeah,
been following that as well. But to his point, you know, when we've been touring Europe, we've toured Europe now probably 6 or 7 times in the last, you know, 5 years. And it's amazing. We show up at these venues and there's a ton of people there and without much radio play either, but it's
mm,
television shows and Spotify
yeah,
really driving that stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's that
No,
to his point that it's huge.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And track three, Chris, and I asked you to pick a cover version, and you picked "Staying Alive."
Yeah. Yeah. So our friends, Dirty Streets, are in Memphis, Tennessee,
Mm,
and they're a similar type band, blues rock type band.
mm,
Justin's a good friend of mine, the singer. And I heard Ozzy do that song years ago
mm.
and thought, you know, well, it's kind of, you know, it's cheeky with Ozzy doing it, but Dirty Streets did that song and really had a different perspective. You know, it felt like a blues rock song. It felt like they could have written it. So love that version.
Yeah, no, it's a great version. What we always say on this part of the chat is what makes a good cover version is bringing your own, putting your own sound on it and making it your own. Like that's rather than just copying the original. And they have absolutely done that there. And that's coincidentally that's the second time a cover version of Staying Alive has been chosen. The first
Oh,
time
wow.
was a band called what are they called? Scary Pockets. Have you heard of them? They're
Oh,
like a
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of a
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they're like a real like the groove is insane. Like
Studio guys. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Great.
so good. Yeah, they do covers like of all sorts of stuff, and yeah, that
I've
was a
heard that.
choice.
I've heard that version.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah, it's a
version's
great,
good
it's
too.
another great version. It's another great version. And track four, Chris, is a song you wish you could have played to your 18-year-old self, and you chose Hollis Brown by Bob Dylan.
Yeah. that song kind of sums it up for me for the acoustic side of this band. I love the darkness, kind of the Southern Gothic vibe, the storytelling. I didn't get into Dylan at that time. I feel like, like when we were young, we were always listening to somebody's older brother's music collection.
Mm,
People were into like Yngwie Malmsteen and that kind of stuff. When we were little, we were listening to Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and Zeppelin.
mm,
But I didn't get into Dylan really until probably my early 30s.
mm,
Really got into it and started
yeah.
listening. And yeah, that song to me was influential just because it's so visual, and
Mm,
you can see kind of this guy just his whole life going to hell in a handbasket. And
mm, yeah.
yeah, if I had heard that earlier, I probably would have written a little bit more, would have started writing the story songs earlier in my life, which
Mm,
is really where I
yeah.
feel at home.
Yeah, yeah. No, Dylan, fantastic storyteller for sure. And I've never counted it up, Chris, but I know because obviously I'm the host. The Dylan, I'd say every third show he makes an appearance on the mixtape, either
Yeah,
as one of his songs like you just chose, or for someone covering one of his songs. All along the
yeah,
Watchtower gets chosen all the time. Dylan, he makes far and away the most appearances on the mixtape by a country mile. Like there's no one else even anywhere close. But one day, I think maybe for the patrons, I'll sit down and I'll break it down and see exactly how many times he's appeared on the show. Maybe I'll do that when we get to 100 episodes. We're not that far off now, so maybe I'll do that. And track five, Chris, is a song you would put on your mixtape to let the listener know that you're romantically interested. You picked Sade, I think.
yeah, man. It's kind of, that's a no-brainer for me. There's a lot of stuff in that realm that I like, but there's not a lot of, you know, she's just, I don't know, she's just kind of like very few artists. Mark Lanigan. I'm trying to think of different people
Mm,
that don't sound like anybody else at all.
mm,
Like she doesn't. And I know I have friends that are into death metal that love Sade, and
mm.
it's like
Yeah.
just it's the one thing that it's different enough. But yeah, that's the vibe, man.
Mm.
Always sounds like a nice, relaxing date.
Sade, I think her greatest hits is one of my go tos for like. Obviously,
Yeah,
I'm a settled down man now, but back in the day, that was my seduction go to was a bit of Sade like all day long. Like it's just it's a great record for that. By Your Side, I think it's one of
yeah,
my favorite ballads of all
yeah,
time. It's amazing. Yeah, and I did a bit of a deep dive just literally just before we started chatting. It just suddenly occurred to me, what is she doing now? And she just
yeah.
had a career, was amazingly successful and doesn't need to do it anymore. She's
Yeah, I
just a
think
mum. And
it's been 10, 15 years since she had her
yeah,
last album,
I
but when
think
that
2010.
came
I read.
out,
I read. Yeah,
yeah, it's probably Lover's Rock. I was like, well, I didn't think she'd make another record then, so it wouldn't surprise me if she didn't make another record, but she's in no hurry. So it's like she
yeah,
does it when she
absolutely.
does and stays out of the limelight. But yeah, nobody likes Sade.
She's like one of those sleeper artists, I think. Whereas if she announced a record on a tour, it would just go nuts. Like, and she's done
Yep,
nothing
yep,
for almost for 20 years, but it would just go nuts.
yeah,
Like Tracy Chapman,
yeah,
same. She could sell out
yeah,
stadiums the world over, and she's done nothing for 20 years. Do you know what I mean? And she would just
yeah,
boom, bam,
yeah,
straight away. God, what an amazing show that would be. God, I can't
yeah.
wait. Do you know
That
what?
would be.
Just reissue her first album on vinyl because it's never been reissued. It's only original press, and they go for like
Oh, wow.
$100 Australian. It's ridiculous. I really want to get it on vinyl, but I can't justify that for a record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it goes for silly money because it's never been reissued. It's only got the original press. So yeah,
That's well.
whatever label's got that, yeah, please, if you're listening, put that out again because yeah, it's well overdue a reissue for sure. Okay, right. Finally, Chris, and track six. And I'm gonna throw a bit of a curveball at you now because when I sent those tracks through to you, I was sort of in a little bit of transition with the podcast and the tracks and starting up the Patreon and everything else. And I changed track six, but I've reverted back to the original track six choice now. So you can keep the cold stairs if you want, because that's the one you picked. But the original track six choice was something that's a little bit. left field or obscure or something that you think doesn't get the kudos or recognition that it deserves. So what would you pick for that, mate? I'm putting you on the spot a bit now.
No, it's that one's easy for me. Mark Lanigan. Yeah, I'm a huge Mark
Yeah, same.
Lanigan fan. So, any of those tracks off of a few of those albums, the Gravedigger record was like when I heard
Yeah,
that, because I was a huge fan of like Johnny Cash and just vocalists that didn't, I heard so much Steve Perry and so much, hair metal whenever I was young that I was like looking for vocalists that were, a little bit different. But Long Black Vanishing Train is a great one. Anything off that record was just, I don't know, man. It just, I could listen to that record for a long time when we were on tour, start to finish. And it's a shame
I've,
that we've lost Mark, but
yeah.
it's a really big influence on me,
No,
lyrically, vocally, and just the way he was kind of his presence.
sure. I was a big Screaming Trees were massive for me in the 90s, and
Yeah,
I played Ode to Sad Disco a fair bit on the show. That's one of my favourite tracks, and
I love
um,
that song.
one with Isabel. Can't remember her second name now. Um,
Yeah, Campbell.
Snake,
Yeah,
Snake, something. Yeah, I can't remember the exact title now, but yeah, that one as well. I'll play, but I'll just say disco. I'll play a fair bit on the show. So yeah, so maybe I'll just crank that one in again because yeah, I really like that track as well. So yeah, let's go with that. I'll just say disco,
yeah,
Mark.
and he had a record with Duke Garwood. Is he Australian? For
I'm
some
not
reason,
sure.
I
I
was
don't know
thinking
him.
he
I'm not
might be.
familiar, but I'll have a look. Yeah, Duke Garwood.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, he
I'll
had
check
an
that out.
album with
Yeah.
him as well. I think he might be Australian or maybe New Zealand, but yeah, it's similar to the album he did with Isabel. It's like a
Mhm.
collaboration. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. The one I always play as well is he did one with Uncle. You familiar with Uncle?
No, I
UNKLE.
don't think so.
They're sort of what's that called? Looking for the Rain, and he's just like a guest vocalist
Huh.
on that. He did one called Looking for the Rain with them, which is really good. He's a fantastic like guest vocalist. Like he's done loads of like
Yeah,
guest spots like that on other people's records and little sort of cameos like that with where you'd never put him with Uncle. But yeah, Uncle are really great like that. James Lavelle is incredible artist and yeah, I definitely recommend them. I picked up their
I'll
album
check
on
it out.
CD the other day, actually, in a charity shop in Perth, science fiction. But yeah, check out Rabbit in the Headlights. The video for that is one of the best videos I've ever seen. It's amazing. Yeah, the album's called Science Fiction, but Science PYS. Yeah, it's spelt funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Uncle with a K. Yeah, well worth checking out, Chris.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
Chris,
on it.
thanks so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate your time, mate. We are bang on the 30 minutes. Look at that. Time management to a T. Love that. Love to see it. Thanks so much, Chris. Good luck with the new record, mate. Really, really looking forward to hearing that. It's thecoldstairs.com for all the tour dates in Europe. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see you in Australia soon, mate. When you can get your hands on the vinyl and the download links and the streaming links and everything else from that website, thecoldstairs.com. Cheers, Chris. Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Take care, mate. See you later.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mixtape podcast. All the links that you will need are in the description below. Link to my Patreon, my guest website and social media, my social media, and the link to the Mixtape tracks playlist as chosen by today's guest. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.